6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Real people, real issues, real life. Talk Recovery Radio. Live from the heart of the downtown east side, it's Talk Recovery Radio with Giuseppe Ganci and Darren Gaylor on Vancouver's Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. From the streets to the studio, bringing you addiction recovery stories from real people with lived experience and real experts on today's issues. Tune in live every Thursday, noon to 1. Powered by New West Recovery. Real people, real issues, real life. Talk Recovery Radio.
And good afternoon, Vancouver. Hello, hello. This is Giuseppe Ganci, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Darren Gaylor. Hey, Darren, how are you doing?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing well, thank you. And
Excellent. I'm doing good. Good to see you. Good to see you. And we are on our 7th season, hundreds of guests, thousands of listeners. Thank you, everybody. And you saw at the end there in that video intro, if you missed the show, you can always replay us on your favorite streaming device. There's like 20 or 30 of them, I think, now. So check it out, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, all that fun stuff. iCloud. No, not iCloud. iTunes. What's that thing called? So we are getting ready for Recovery Day, September 11th. Super excited. Darren's going to be the MC. I don't know where Darren is on your screen. Darren, you're excited?
I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah. Darren's been, oh, this chair is really low. Let me fix this. Darren's been our MC for how many years now?
I was thinking about that. I spoke at the first one, and then I MC'd it ever since. Like,
good for you.
Even before you were involved.
Well, no. I was there at the first one too. I took a little bit of a break though, somewhere in between there, but I came back.
Right.
You know what's super cool? Going to be at Recovery Day in Calgary and Lethbridge next week, or in 2 weeks anyway. Got an email from Winnipeg. There's so much conversations going on between different provinces, and how can we keep Recovery Day going? So in spite of COVID and all that kind of stuff. So we do have permission to do Recovery Day on the street on September 11th in New West. It's going to be a smaller footprint, so please come, and they'll be sanitizing and masks if you want them on site and so forth. But definitely, it's an in-person event, so we're excited about that. Yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? Geez, I don't even know what day it is right now. It's Thursday, right? I went downtown. The movie Crisis is still in production, and it was Overdose Memorial Day. So definitely a moment to remember all those lost to overdoses on August 31st. Also, it went down with some cameras, and they were doing the safe supply distribution, where they were giving people free heroin, crystal meth, and cocaine. That would be pretty much 99% pure drugs in as a what do you call it, as activism, I guess, to create safe supply in Canada. It was quite interesting there, and it was quite the scene. It was like a festival scene. They shut the street down, and they had tents set up and a free barbecue, and then at 2:30 they opened up. Vancouver area network of drug users opened up their shop, and they had dosed $20 worth of drugs for each person, but you had to register somehow and so forth. So got some video of some people getting their drugs and interviewed them a bit for the movie Crisis that will hopefully come out soon. But I'm like, it was interesting. You'll see more in the movie, I guess.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess those people won't be overdosing.
No, they won't be overdosing yet.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say.
You want some free heroin?
I mean, look, I try to, especially nowadays, just avoid the media for my own mental health, and probably not wise, since I co-host a recovery talk show. But there's people fighting for this, and I believe it has its space, and I believe it has its use and its need. But just not like that. Not like
There was one thing that I noticed. All right, so it's which is confusing. A lot of people are what's really pushing this is people like 14, 15, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds who aren't addicted to any drug. They're just their first few months of experiencing with drugs or dying from doing drugs, which never happened before. And so there's that fight to have a safe drugs that aren't
Yeah.
tainted or whatever for them. Okay, I
That
get
aren't
it.
going to kill somebody experimenting for the
But
first.
the problem is, I don't think we've got the abilities to provide healthcare to the people that may get addicted to drugs yet. And it's what comes first, and I was watching the people in line for their safe supply yesterday, and there was people with some pretty severe health conditions, and I just thought like this there more needs to be done. That's all I got to say. More needs to be done because there was a lot of people in that line that that definitely had some other health issues that needed attention. So especially mental health issues. So I don't know. It's a very
I believe it needs to be, set in an environment where there's many other options and resources while they're looking for their safe supply. They can see a doctor, get assessed, take care of some of the physical maybe sores or wounds, that, you know what I mean? And yeah, and I don't know, it just,
there's also a little bit of
Pain.
the European went to Portugal and did some research on Switzerland. For some like their harm reduction models, their safe supply models in Switzerland, the decrypt model in Portugal, we've talked about this on the show. It's not a it's still not okay to do drugs in those countries. Like it's not like, hey, you have entitled to do, like there's still some expectation of citizenship, put it that way. From being there on August 31st, it really seemed like, hey, drugs are okay to use. And I'm not saying that drugs aren't okay to use. I'm not saying that drugs, I don't know what I'm saying. All I'm saying, it's not the same energy that I felt in Portugal when we were doing the circuit of the harm reduction clinics. It was different. So you got $20 of free dope and you got $10 cash for accepting the free dope, which was interesting. But we will learn more. We'll see what happens. I mean, people can go to the polls. Thanks you, Justin Trudeau, for putting an election in the middle of all this, but definitely all the parties have different stance on their addiction policies. So look them up and make your decisions. I know what I'm voting for, so hopefully you can make a wise decision on what you're going to vote for as well. So anyway, but it was Overdose Memorial Day a couple of days ago, and I look at it this way. Okay, this is gonna get me in trouble, but I don't really have any friends on my Facebook list that aren't getting their surgery for transitioning paid for. I don't have any friends on my friends list really that are being converted through gay conversion therapy. I have a lot of friends that are dead from overdoses. So I really think addiction is, costing this country billions of dollars, and we have so many people dying. um, every party isn't perfect, put it that way. So enough with that. That's our conversation at the beginning of the show. Darren, we get to talk recovery with so many people, and who do we get to talk recovery with today?
Yeah, we get to talk recovery with our returning guest. He was on our show, I think about 3 years ago or so. We'll just let him come on. There he is. This is Terrance Kosikar. Welcome to the show.
Boys, what's going on, Jordan? What's up, Giuseppe?
Welcome back to the show, I should say.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. Yeah.
You guys leaving me hanging over in the waiting room there for a while. Figured I'd bang out a quick set.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I don't like just sitting around.
Nice. So Terrance is he's the the man that developed Camp My Way, which is a residential wilderness program for first responders and their families who have been affected by PTSD. It's completely off the grid somewhere in BC. This is a part of the mission that I'm reading here. The ultimate goal is to help people get their lives back and reconnect with their family and friends through teamwork, self-discipline, meditation, exercise, nutrition, and sharing positive experiences in a natural environment. I love it. We were joking a little bit at the top of the show about like how, you know, where you are, there's no COVID, there's no social distancing. And I mean, I guess that's a big part of the programming and for mental health is just to disconnect, right? And just get out with nature and put the distractions aside for a little bit. Is that right?
In fact, it's more like reconnect with self,
right on.
You know, and when we talk about mental health, let's consider this, our environmental health.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to live, you know, I was homeless on the downtown east side 7 years ago before I came up here. And that was the cage of insanity. I couldn't keep the pace. Hence why I used all the substances that I used to escape that reality. So you come up into a natural environment, you have time to think, time to get to know yourself.
Yeah.
So you can be yourself and love yourself again.
And so tell us a little bit of that story. Like you said you came up here. Like, did somebody bring you up and sort of get you out of the mess, or did you just like walk into the woods? What happened there before there was a program, obviously?
Well, it's one thing also is thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Giuseppe, for having me. And before I actually,
it's Darren, by the way. Jordan, shout out to Jordan Bowman. He's our show coordinator who puts our shows together. No problem, man. No problem, man.
All good.
Speaking of programming, it was from looking at all my emails this morning.
Yeah.
Right on.
Sorry, Darren, no disrespect, but if I could, before we even really get into it here, I'd like to acknowledge that Camp My Way is on the unceded traditional Untitled territory of the Shalath, which is the people of the lakes. So when we say, you know, who brought me up here, God. And for me, that's not from a religious side of things. The God stands for the great outdoors. So that allows me to stay on the right path. And back to the question. How did it all happen? Yeah, how did it all happen, right? Well, I was worked as a first responder for many years, and I was one of the first responders during the Vancouver 2010 Winter Olympics when the Georgian luger Nodar Kumrat-Teshvili was killed on opening day. Right. And an hour after the Olympics were over, I went to try to die by suicide. Obviously not very successful. Went to see my doctor, and the doctor had said, I think you have PTSD. And my first words back, and forgive the French, but it was, what the f is PTSD? Mm-hmm. So, well, you're going to need to see a psychiatrist, and she doesn't come up here for another 2 months. So, and this is where the horns grew, the tail came out. Take some of these. Take some of these and some of these. And by the time the psychiatrist came up, you think I want to tell her anything, buddy? I got me some Percocets, Oxy, fentanyl, some benzos. I'm okay.
And this is 2010, and it shows how little we knew about PTSD, how to treat it. You know, like even as a first responder, to be sort of stunned after watching a tragic accident resulting in death, and it be a surprise that was part of that experience for you. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's not that long ago. I mean, have we come far enough yet as far as, like, you know, the traumatic effect of first responders and the awareness of it and the self-awareness of it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Darren. You know, we are taking positive steps forward. You know, back in the late 1800s, if you're showing signs and symptoms of what they call today as PTSD, it would be considered as being cowardice to the king, and they'd behead you. Wow. And in the early 1900s, the Royal Air Force, if you were showing signs and symptoms and not wanting to go back to the battlefield, they would blindfold you and shoot you. And then we can move on to the after World War II, when it was considered shell shock. The man was so scared, he was shaking in his boots. There's something wrong with his mind. No, we get into the 1980s and we start calling it post-traumatic stress disorder and blanking it, masking it with all these medications, which ultimately keeps us alive, but prolongs the suffering and allows us to drain our career, our family, our life, our well-being, leaving us to rot and die by suicide. So in order to make change, we need to bring more education, more knowledge, because ultimately, you don't have to be a first responder to have PTSD.
You know, that, I mean, so true. I mean, and to think in first responders, I mean, in today's world, I mean, that's got to be part of the training, part of the education, you know, part of the conversation of what's going to happen when you experience something traumatic, when you get hit in an experience, you know, on the front line. But that what you just described, what the medication does to PTSD, prolonging the life, to lose everything, to lose yourself. I mean, I hate to change the subject, but we were talking about just a couple of days ago, safe supply being handed out in the downtown east side. And I mean, I'm going to ask you, because you said you were down there. Like, is that the exact same thing in just a different, you know, different situation?
Well, first of all, what do you mean a safe supply of, like, how about this? Because, buddy, let me tell you, this tickles my balls and makes my ass tight when we talk about what's actually happening with the Vancouver counselors handing out 8 balls of dope and saying this is a safe supply, that benzos and fentanyl is toxic. Well, you shouldn't have prescribed it to me in the first place. Then ultimately landing on the downtown east side, where you and I, all 3 of us and our listeners know, 1 out of 1,000 will barely make it out of the depths of the devil's belly. So let's talk about prevention. Let's talk, you know, we mentioned a few minutes ago, Darren, about, you know, is it in our training as first responders? Hell no. Will it ever be? No. That's like teaching old ass dogs new tricks. It needs to start mindfulness, meditation, exercise, 15 minutes a day, every day, starting in kindergarten.
You know, you bring up a good point. There's so many, you think with addiction and trauma being so prevalent in Canadian society these days, most people don't know this, but like a physician gets no training for addiction. So if you got a family doc or walk-in clinic, the person you're talking to actually is not trained to deal with addiction. And this world of addiction specialists has risen over time through occupational health programs. But unless you walk into an addiction specialist, which is very rare, you're going to a clinic and you're getting your medications. And, you know, I remember when I told my doctor, you know, about my substance use, their first response was medication. There was no conversation about recovery oriented systems of care. So now you're going to talk about trauma as well. Like you weren't trained, like, hey, guess what? You know, there's this thing and that could happen to you. So I want to ask you a question, because this is a show about addiction recovery, and obviously lots of people with addiction have trauma. I, for one, do not believe every person with addiction has trauma, but, you know, I do know that lots do. So there's this thing that happens, and, you know, I'm in a rehab center. I work in a rehab center. People show up and it's like, I've got trauma and I need to deal with it today. You're like 2 days off a crystal meth psychosis binge, and they want to deal with their trauma, and because they've been coached by social media, coached by books and certain physicians out there, we won't say their names, you know, it's all about trauma. What do you think, being a trauma specialist, I'd like to say, we have this theory, you know, get good at recovery and then work on everything else as well. What do we work on first? The trauma, the recovery? Like, what do you think in that world?
Well, that's a really good question, Giuseppe, and thank you for guiding us down this path because it's so vital. The people who are coming in asking for help and talking about want to work on my trauma, let me ask you this first. What is trauma? What is trauma? You see, a lot of people chalk it up to the death, rape, murder, violence, hatred, when in fact, even just a 5-year-old child undergoing a major tooth surgery is trauma. The nervous system doesn't say that's a dentist taking a tooth or I'm being shot at in Afghanistan. The nervous system perceives the threat to the organism's survival and gives off energy to protect us. That's why we've evolved all these thousands of years, thanks to the nervous system. So when we can bring more education and knowledge to the energy that's trapped in the nervous system, when it's too much energy, we're unable to biologically process it. Now comes the depression, anxiety, stress, the violence, the, hey, well, it was this, and we're pinpointing all these events that it could have been, where in reality, all of these negative emotions that we're experiencing, what that is that's also the nervous system going, hey, bud, what the you've been doing about it?
Right.
Let's go open up your cupboards and check your nutrition, what you've been eating for the last 5 years. Have you been hydrating? Have you been exercising and getting strong every day and moving that energy? Because with too much, like I said, causes that unwanted feeling. That's the greatest thing about the negative emotions. That's what's right about us.
You know what, like you talked about prevention and you talked about how early, we can prepare an individual because we can't avoid it.
That's right.
Like you say, I guarantee everybody listening has an experience where they were shocked, and scared, whether it's a small car accident or whatever, but that thing that happens when the adrenaline kicks in, you could have broken your leg, but you still walked 15 feet, on it because of the adrenaline, that survival of the organism that you mentioned kicks in. And then we just, bandage the wound and carry on. And there's this energy, like if I'm not prepared to know how to deal with it, then it's going to result in a bunch of unresolved stuff. Right. And medication's gonna make me feel better. Drugs are gonna make me feel better, yada, yada, yada. Like, that's the thing that happens is when people who weren't prepared, gone through it, and then messed their life up trying to keep themselves going, they want to use the stuff, the solution to what's preparing them to fix it all. Right? That's why people believe it's like, oh, I can take care of this in 30, 60, 90 days and then it's dealt with. Right? Like, well, you were just, trained and given tools to better yourself, and there is no over it, right? I mean, let's talk about, like, you go into the woods, you come to Camp My Way, you revive yourself, like you reconnect with yourself, you're empowered, you're stronger mentally, physically, as a result of however long, I spend with you. I can see it only being about a week where I'm like rock solid and ready to go. But what's the exit as a, someone you've been working with is now going back to work, back to the city, back, what is that conversation?
A conversation's as simple as this, brother. Let me tell you something. Yeah, after a week, we're going to get you solid. But let me tell you, that's just the appetizer to the rest of your life. You see, at Camp My Way, we're not a program. It's a way of life. And your first week up here, Darren, is like you're following everything that I do on a daily basis and starting a new routine, adding a few more tools to your belt. In fact, let me put it this way, paint a more fathomable clear picture. It's like going to the home. You and Giuseppe come over, knock on the door, says, hey, Terrance, we want to build our house, bro. And we're at the Home Depot, and I'm standing. I say, hey, tell you, can you sell us all the tools? We'll build our whole house. I'll say, oh, it's cute, boys. Tell you what, let's take this week and let's go down the tool aisle together and use each of the tools, just a few minutes each day, every single day, the mindfulness, the breathing, the quiet first thing in the morning for 3 hours. Let's eat healthy. Let's get some exercise. These are the tools. You experience this at the end of the week. You say, hey, you know what, Terrance, I really like that breathing exercise. You're going to take that back to the city and you're going to use that breathing exercise 10 minutes a day for the next 3 months, every single day with no excuses. I don't care if it's Christmas or if your birthday or if it's your wife's, it doesn't matter. And in 3 months, you come back up here and we do another week and we go through all of the tools and you take another tool and you apply it for 3 more months. You come back up 3 months later, and after 1 year, you'll have mastered at least 4 tools that work best for you in your daily routine. And now we have poured the concrete to your foundation so you can begin next year building your home for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I like that analogy because I want it built now.
Everybody
does.
That's
going to make me feel better. That's going to fix everything. That's why.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, bro.
Because I don't have a home. That's why that's where my problems lie. So if we build the home right now, I'm good. It's perfect. It's perfect. And what most people I don't think realize is, yeah, you were messed up because you didn't have the tools. You had a upbringing. You had people teaching you the wrong things, let's say, and it all of that is important, but eventually it doesn't matter. That each one of us, you know what, you don't want to go home, you don't want to breathe, even though you know right now how important it is and how much it's helped you, then fine, you're going to deal with the consequences though. You're going to get back everything that you just tried to fix. And at some point, us as individuals have to take that personal responsibility to change our lives, change ourselves. And I mean, yeah, to go away, I love that it's not going to cure you. You hear people try to sell the cure, right? Like, that you're a man that's experienced it all and has gone through it all and will clearly say, I'm not going to cure you up here. I'm going to give you the tools and it's up to you to use them in your life. I mean, that's the truth, right? That's just it. The resiliency that's needed for when you go back to your routine.
I mean, that's how we can get out of this whole mental health and addiction crisis that we have. I mean, we have physicians and medical systems that take care of broken legs, broken shoulder, like physical problems. I remember, years ago when the overdose crisis, really started in BC, and we went to this press announcement where AIDS Vancouver doctors and AIDS Vancouver societies and like the people behind the AIDS research were going to work with the BCCSU to like solve the overdose crisis, and everyone's clapping, and I'm like, are you people crazy? Like that, they get out of this room, because you're not going to fix this problem, because it's not a something you give a pill to and it's fixed. And if we go down this road, we're going to get a lot of people. You can't even go to detox anymore in detox. Like you go to detox to get more meds. There's no detox involved anymore. And that's a result of that system. But really, like mental health and addiction and recovery, and I think with your Camp My Way shows like it's something you have to do every day. Practice your own wellness. I don't know if there's meditation at Camp My Way, but
Yep.
And I wanted to ask you this question. How do you work with self-centeredness and self-entitlement in the world of trauma and PTSD? And I'm asking you this question because, we've worked with a lot of people that come in with trauma, and they're obviously addicted to drugs here, and sometimes they really just work on their step 6 and 7, 8, 9, 10, and they start to lose that self-entitlement and self-centeredness, and it kind of eases some of the other issues in their life. How does that play a role in the people that you see?
First of all, what do you mean by self-centeredness?
So like me, me, I need to be happy. The world needs to entertain me. The world done me wrong, and I'm going to get back to them, and I will never forgive the world, and I'll never forgive, people, places, and things. And you don't understand how wronged I've been. I was
right?
Youth. I'm talking 60-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like youth.
Yeah, but I mean, also, but that mentality of like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's too hard. Or when do I get my phone back? And you know what I mean? Like,
well, first of all, those people aren't coming. I'm telling you straight up. One of every 116 people make the cut. Because I'm telling you right now, you have a process before you get to come up here to campus. You're putting in 30 days. Yeah. Sending me a picture of yourself doing some push-ups, your journaling, your gratitude, doing something selfless for somebody else. Every single day, I have 32 people every single morning by 10 o'clock checking in. Hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing my breathing. I'm doing my gratitude. After their second or third week, they're already feeling much better just by that. They don't even want to come up here. And the other ones, I'm too busy. Goodbye. You're not going to fit into my routine. You're not going to ruin my recovery, buddy, because I'm up at 3:30 every damn morning. Absolutely. I get up way before the birds. Absolutely. But I'm going to tell you, by 5 o'clock, 3/4 of my work is done. You have to be selfish, and you got to put in that time. It has to be all about me.
What do you say to people that say, hey, this is a bit extreme?
You're clearly not on your hands and knees begging for your life back.
Yeah.
When you're on your hands and motherfucking knees going, I need some, we'll do anything. That's the man I want to talk to. Yeah. That's the man I want to work with, who is willing to put in the time, the effort, the sacrifice, the discipline to their recovery every single breath we breathe.
Well, why waste the time getting there? I mean, you know what I mean? That's what I think is turned into, today's world. If you need help, it's like, we're going to coddle and take care of you, and you don't have to worry about it. All your needs are going to be met. You don't even have to fight for yourself. Exactly. It's set up. I get a bed. I get to go see my $200 an hour therapist who's going to, like you say, if that need be, write the prescription. And
you're lucky if they're $200. Psychiatrists are going like $500 an hour and up. Like it's pretty.
Are they?
But
we need some places. Like, we have a broken individual, and they might not know how to ask for help because of what they're having to admit in that moment. But I mean, we can't waste any time, right? I mean, how many. Well, I've followed, your Instagram or Facebook, and there was a fire chief somewhere, that you've connected with, and I've seen you meet different heads of those industries, and you're well respected in the frontline first responder world, and to know for them that you're there, that you've got this program that they need, that's not going to be a 30-60 day hospitalization where they get back someone who's just as frightened and more anxious and maybe medicated. Like, not to say medication might not be necessary, it might be necessary in this situation, right? But for how long? For the rest of someone's life, or until they go and see and find this new way of life that you're able to provide at Camp My Way.
I tell you, the key is, and like we suggest to all people, is we don't want you to come to Camp My Way. I'm a volunteer. I've yet to cut a check to myself in 7 years. It's service over self. I would rather spend an hour and a half at a fire department, at a police department, university, sharing some education, some knowledge, and presenting and having that human to interaction, and having that conversation about what we can do each day to prevent you from actually needing the help. You see, this is the challenge: is humans today want to put their trophy on the wall or their name on something, that I did this, big, I saved the world. BS. How about, why not, can we spend the next 20 years planting seeds in the minds of the next generation and allow them 3 or 4 more decades to water those seeds before they actually begin to grow? And that's the process. That's how things change. It takes time. Nobody wants to put in the time. They have all this money they want to throw at the problem. So we have to invest in the future.
We don't want to take time. We don't even want to take time to cook anymore. I mean, that's we don't want to take time to cook. We don't want to take time to do things. We just want to we just want our food delivered to us now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a different world. You know, it's been great having you on our show. That was a quick interview. Wow, that was a lot of. You bring a lot of energy to the Zoom call. Let me tell you. Yeah. You know, so your website is
campmyway.com. And if I can say just one more thing, boys, before we cut out of here. First of all, hello and much respect to my friend Stephen Hall. You guys familiar with Stephen Hall over there
for sure.
over at T-Dub? Yeah, he's a damn good cat. And most importantly, I am actually coming down to the city, to the cage again on Monday, September the 18th. A good friend of mine, in fact, he's our charitable lawyer. His name is Josh Vanderwijs. This man is born with no arms and no legs and no limits. He's running for the federal government, and his riding is on the downtown east side. So follow us on social media here. We'll have an update as to what we're pushing through to help spread some positive energy, and that recovery is possible with Josh Vanderwijs.
Well, thank you for that. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio, and Terrance, always great to have you on the show from Camp My Way.
And I follow him on social media. It's inspiring to watch. You know, flipping tires up the mountains through Stanley Park. I also want to mention it's not weak to speak.com. Check that out. That's something that Terrance is a part of as well. And of course, the campmyway.com. Terrance, thanks for coming on the show again today, and we'll have you on again real soon, pal.
Definitely.
Yeah, we'll see you guys again. Thank you, boys.
Enjoy. Thank you so much.
Bye for now, guys. Much respect. Thank you for your time.
Excellent. And you're listening to Talk Recovery Radio, coming to you every Thursday, noon to 1. Forgot what time it was, and I hope you like what you're listening to, and you can catch us on replay, powered by New West Recovery, Canada's recovery community. And we always bring you stories from people in recovery, addiction and recovery experts. And today we got a mom. Hi, we've got Mallory here. Mallory is from the Family Recovery Society. And it's an organization that has fathers and moms that do recovery. And Mallory, how did you get involved with Family Recovery Society? We had a dad on, Neil, last week. And so this week we're going to talk to a mom. So tell us a bit of your story.
So I got involved just as the pandemic hit. Family Recovery Society has been around since 2017, directed towards moms, and now we have dads, so it's pretty exciting. I just felt super isolated during this pandemic, and I felt like a lot of things I was struggling with were things that I needed something more than just the rooms of NA to help me through. I needed something more specifically towards being a parent. And with my story, I got sober when I was 7 months pregnant with my youngest daughter. So I spent a good chunk of my pregnancy in addiction. So I was kind of learning how to be clean and taking on a newborn all at the same time. And with that, you don't have the same space to do the work that you need, and you're faced with different obstacles and learning how to co-parent and dealing with your partner's recovery and what that might look like, and the lack of control over that, and different things that come up for you as a parent. And with my story, I have an older daughter that I was not introduced to recovery when I was in addiction with her, and very different endings, very, very different endings. Well, I don't like to think that it's over yet, but very different narratives. So just like the blessings that recovery has brought in my life, and the mother that I am today is all because of recovery and the work that I've done as with the Family Recovery Society and with the rooms of NA. So I'm
So
just
you,
really
you
grateful.
started your journey when how old's your daughter now?
My oldest is 12. My youngest is 2.5.
So you've been in the rooms for a couple of years then. Congratulations on that. So, we're trying to, we started off the show talking about safe supply, and we're talking about trauma and PTSD. Being a mom is probably one of the world's most safety sensitive position. It's how do we help moms be moms? And there's this whole world out there. There's some people that think moms should be able to keep their kids while they're using drugs. Moms, there's some people that think they shouldn't. And so obviously from the sounds of your story, there's two endings. So I'm assuming that, you had some issues with the first daughter and so forth. So, and 2 years later now that you get it, I hear a story that it's like, yeah, I needed to take care of my recovery first. Can you expand on that conversation and how Families Recovery Society helps moms and dads understand it's like, yeah, sometimes you just need to, take care of you first.
Well, it's finding like the one thing that stands out for me with what I get in Family Recovery Society is the ability to parent while being educated and empowered at the same time. It's not like you have to separate yourself from your children to be able to still gain that knowledge. Like a lot of places aren't necessarily family friendly, or like don't get that you have a toddler screaming in the background or you might not have slept the night before, and not because of using this time, but because like teething and things like that come up. And just like looking at how we can still continue to build recovery capital and maintain long-term recovery with still holding on to our role as parents, whatever that means. Some of our parents don't have their kids in the custody. Some people are only part-time parents. Other parents we're all at different stages. So like just building on that and meeting us where we're at in our parenting and our recovery at the same time. And very much like I find usually like the things that you go through in parenthood are dealt with different organizations and different outside things that don't necessarily understand recovery. And I think that's what was so helpful for me and continues to be helpful, is like parenting is forever changing. Like there's so many different expectations in this world today around being a parent, and like trying to meet those expectations for the well-being of our children and still being able to hold our head above water and not just survive but thrive in recovery. And that's the difference between like my life, because I was in recovery briefly prior to my relapse and before having my youngest, and trying to be a mom separated from her child, just working on recovery, compared to being a mom with a society of like other recovering mothers. It's such a difference, and it takes away the shame and the stigma. Like as parents, we carry around so much guilt, right? Like for our choices and our actions that have affected our children and our families. I noticed, like, since we changed from the Mothers Recovery Society to the Family Recovery Society, we're very much more focused on like building families, not just empowering moms, but like dads as well, and getting them involved. And like that's so important because it was missing.
One thing that that you're touching on is so many people talk about the stigma of addiction, and I like to always point out when I can on this show, the stigma of recovery is just as strong. I mean, I was talking to somebody just the other day, and I was just like, "Hey, you should come to this thing that we're doing for families." And it's like, "Oh, I don't really want my kids around that. That they don't really know about our recovery story." And I just thought to myself, I'm like, it always hits me kind of like when I was 16 and coming out of the closet and going to Toronto Pride. I don't really want to know. I don't want people to know. They might see me there. I'm just like, well, what do you mean? Like you're like if you recover from cancer, do you keep that a secret? Like you tell the world, but you recover from this disease that's killing so many people, and it's like it's a secret. What do you think about that and all that kind of stuff? Because it's amazing to me still.
I know I can touch on the stigma of addiction 100%, as far as like I work on the downtown east side, and I'm in the thick of it every day, and I see what's going on. And And I see myself in that because that was me 2.5 years ago. And like, the one thing that keeps so many people sick is the multiple barriers around this stigma, and like the fact that, like, I know I went 7 months out of my pregnancy with no prenatal care because of the way the healthcare system is, and the way that I felt when I went and asked for help. And it's like, you know, yeah, I don't know. I wish we could just end the stigma, right?
What were some of the challenges you had when you were pregnant 7 months? Like, why didn't you go? Like, tell us. I don't know. I've never had
Like,
that
I've
experience.
always struggled with depression, but going in as an addict, struggling with depression and pregnant, they just all blamed it on the addiction, right? There was no help. They were just like, we can't help you till you get clean. And that's the difference between like abstinence and harm reduction, is like giving the services available to people, whether or not they are clean or not, because I know that I didn't want to get clean at first. And my goal was to just learn how to maintain my life as an active user. And that wasn't possible for me. I know that with taking the shame out of the fact that I had that thinking helped me discover that I was worth actual recovery of being totally abstinent, and like having a love that you find in the rooms and in the communities that we're building. And it's so important. Like, we don't love ourselves when we come into recovery. That's a given. So to the idea of being a mom and trying to learn how to love a little person and give them all everything they need, and love myself enough to make the correct choices and the right choices for my life, it was really hard to balance the different thinking in my head. So yeah, I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no, totally makes sense.
Well, I think it's such an important aspect of, how many moms are pregnant and can't stop using right now. That you know what I mean, are doing it more secretively and avoiding walking through the office door, for exactly what you went through and described. It's insane to me that there would even be a notion of like a misunderstanding. Like, how could you use while pregnant? Like, okay, so you don't understand addiction then. Like, how many years have we just seen like people, no matter what's in front of them, step over it for, the next fix and the next, like it's no shock. You know what I mean? Well, you got a new job, you didn't quit. You got pregnant, you didn't quit. You got married, you didn't quit. Like, come on, but there must be so many women out there that are experiencing this same thing. Like, how did you, like, what helped? What, like, was it anything, healthcare related that actually did help? And where does a pregnant mother go that's embarrassed and ashamed, that is struggling, stopping using? Like where do they actually go?
It's hard to say. Like, I was blessed with being introduced to Narcotics Anonymous prior to getting pregnant. So I knew that I was always welcome in the rooms, and I could always go ask for help. And like, as much as my head would tell me that I would be judged, it's like I just need to take that step. And like, I ended up going through a treatment center here in Surrey, British Columbia, called Ellendale Cradle, and it's a 8-month treatment program. You can go with your newborn or while pregnant, and that was the only program I really knew of other than Puritanville. But it was a long road. It was a really long road. Like,
were there impossible barriers, like, to get over to be intaked into that program?
It was harder. The wait time between detox and getting into a treatment center, there's just not enough of them. That's the reality. It's like, or a lot of people they're in addiction with their partners and they don't want to leave. That was my case for a little while, where I didn't want to leave her dad downtown dying, right? Like, where there needs to be some sort of programs that like tie together as a family, right? Like, that's just so important. It's like, this isn't a one-man job. It takes a village to raise a child, and like, and we can't get clean alone. So like just empowering us to band together, right? And like that's what the Family Recovery Society is all of us just like getting together, sharing our vulnerabilities, sharing our fears. We have like all the moms that go through Ellendale Cradle, I always suggest for them to get connected with the Family Recovery Society. We're all at different points in our recovery, so there's never any shame around the choices, and we can sit back and laugh at the silly stuff that we've done in life. Like it's like, oh my gosh, I did this. It's like, oh, me too. Like, and it takes away, that's killing the shame, right? And that is so effective.
And I think it's the only thing that exists that allows us to, resolve that stuff. It doesn't remove it, doesn't take it away completely, but to be around other people who understand, relate, identify. I mean,
well, it's the therapeutic value of one addict helping another. I mean, it's the key ingredient. I mean, you're sitting in a room and you just realize I'm not the only one. Like that is so powerful. I'm not the only mom that used heroin, when I was pregnant. I'm not the only, guy that stole this. I'm not the only, like there's so much power in that. And so a mom, we got a couple minutes left. If a mom's out there struggling, she can go to your website or your Facebook page. What does she do to get connected?
So yeah, we have a website, familyrecoverysociety.com. The best way to get connected is to just jump onto our Facebook page, add yourself as a member, and just start coming to the meetings. I host the Tuesday morning meetings for the women at 10 a.m. on Zoom. You can get connected with the link on our Facebook page. Reach out to me personally. I'm always around. I'm more than welcome to guide a mom into the right hands. So yeah, it's just about connection, and I hope somebody hears something today that it's like that hesitancy about connecting is broken, and they actually reach out, because everybody deserves to reach out. There's nobody who is too far gone. There really isn't. It's like I was a write-off, and today I'm living a lovely life.
Congratulations.
Just a note on like the inclusivity of the mothers meetings that you say on Zoom. Is it welcome to all? Is it a 12-step based run meeting? Just give us a little bit of that information.
We're not 12-step based, so there's no steps, there's nothing like that. It's just we do a lot of programming towards educating about recovery and like different skills that will help us as parents. But as far as steps, we don't do that. We can always connect you with those resources after. But we pretty much right now, because of COVID, we're just doing our meetings on Zoom. We're doing the odd in-person little event, but we're going to be at Recovery Day as well.
Hey.
So, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm going to be there with my bubble machine. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, just start by going to the meetings. That's the best way to connect right now with COVID, to be honest.
And before we go, the treatment center that you went to was called
Ellendale Cradle.
And it's a nonprofit in Surrey?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So if you know anybody that, because that's hard for women who are pregnant or have a newborn to go to rehab. I mean, in very limited space. So if that's a great resource, we'll try to find the link and post it on our Facebook page later on.
Thank you so much, Giuseppe.
Yeah, Mallory Fewster, Mallory Fewster, Family Recovery Society on Facebook, and yourself on Facebook. Give her a like and a tag and a join, and yeah, get involved. I mean, this is just that one niche. I can imagine being so difficult, to change one's life. If there's a child, or the possibility of the removal of the child as a threat, that individual is hiding and living in secrecy, and with minimal resources out there that makes that person feel welcome. Come on, we have the exact answer, and we have the exact solution for you. Like, these are the things that gets people out of that darkness. So.
And I haven't seen my oldest daughter in 9 years. Like, things don't get fixed overnight, but it's like it's a work in progress, and we all have the worth in ourselves to be able to work towards something that you would never dream of before. So
absolutely. I like that. Yeah, our show's sort of themed on there is no cure, there is no fix, but if you are willing to do whatever it takes, your life can change.
exactly.
And we are all examples of it. And I appreciate you sharing your story on Talk Recovery with us today, Mallory. It was very welcomed, and thank you very much. We'll see you at Recovery Day.
We'll see you at
All right.
Recovery Day.
Thank you
September 11th.
guys.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you're on the radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. If you're on Facebook, we're on Facebook Live. So thanks for listening. See you next Thursday, Darren, Mallory. See you at Recovery Day. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.